A very good morning to everyone from Asia Pacific side and all of our friends that are joining us. My name is Shafique Dawood. I lead the sales and business development for the Asia Pacific region. And today we will be talking about Digital Risks 2021. What are the latest scam trends and also the projections that Group IB has for the Asia Pacific region? Together with me, I'm joined by Kamo Basentsyan. He is in Singapore right now. Hi, Kamo, and whilst I'm in Moscow. Normally it is the other way around. He will be in Moscow and I will be in Singapore. We decided to trade places just for this summer. So moving along, our agenda today will be, I will give you a very quick introduction to Group IB, who we are, and then we will move more towards the different types of online scam techniques and the various cases in APAC, since right now scams are having a major problem throughout the whole of APAC. So much so that the police force is having anti-scam campaigns, and we've got a huge amount of trendings and projections throughout the whole of the different territories. Thereafter, we will talk about a little bit about the scam trend projection. I think this is the part why everybody is here, to truly understand what are the different techniques and how it might impact you, and potentially thereafter into digital risk protection, what Group IB does for its customers to prevent scams, anti-piracy, anti-counterfeit, and anti-scam. So without further ado, let me introduce you, for those of you who might not know Group IB. We are Group IB, also known as Group Invest Group. We have about 450 plus customers. It's continuously growing. We've done about 1,300 plus successful investigations in high-tech cybercrime cases. This is our main pedigree, our main legacy. We've got almost 600 over employees worldwide. We're headquartered in Singapore. We opened up offices out of Amsterdam, Dubai, and a few others as well. And we have about 70,000 odd hours of incident response. A lot of our products and our services are recognized not only in Frost & Sullivan, Forrester, Gartner, and IDC. And I think one of the most vital things that changed the landscape of our companies when we actually became partners, official partners of Interpol and Europol. We're recommended by OSCE, SWIFT, and we have quite a number of high-end clients throughout the world, globally. So moving along, we will be talking digital risks, trends, and cases. I'm sorry, none of you can see me, so let me see if I can see you. I'm a very shy guy, so.
Yeah, I can't see you yet.
You can see me? All right, thank you very much.
Hey.
Apologies for that. All right, now, so now we're going to talk a little bit about digital risk trends and cases. As you know, there is a global digital trending for almost an increase of about 7% at 4.54 billion. Social media users have proliferated and have been amplified to almost plus 13% at 4.2 billion. There is also a doubling up of the growth in the number of online stores, of course, driven potentially by this COVID pandemic. And there are about 10 to 40% higher profits that are because of tailored types of offers there are. And other than that, there's about a 40% of sellers who actually use social media to drive sales. Now, why is this important? This is important because this is the trending that we see by which threat actors are capitalizing upon. The COVID situation has led to people, working from home, buying a lot more groceries online, for example, right? Buying more e-commerce products and services in that manner. So this trending we see of continued growth and proliferation, continued tailoring, customization is key for businesses. And these are some of the things that are being capitalized by the threat actors. So just to give you a sensing before we move deeper into different techniques that are being done by these threat actors, I'd like to give you a sensing of how vital this problem is. Australia in 2020 alone suffered a total of 850 million Aussie dollars in scams. Now that is a lot of money. Add in a little bit more, that is almost $1 billion overall in losses. So much so that the Australian government is mooting new laws that mandate formal full disclosure in the event of any type of attacks, especially now primarily ransomware attacks. As you know, like things like the superannuation industry in Australia is huge. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. In Singapore, where we are globally headquartered as Group IB, it faced 21 million in losses last year. So without further ado, I'm going to leave it to Kamo right now to tell you a little bit about phishing evasion techniques, something that we predicted in our high-tech crime trends report, which happens year on year. Over to you, Kamo.
Thanks, Shafique. Really pleased to be here with you. I hope you can hear me well and see me well.
Yes.
And yeah, as you said, the situation could not stay covered from fraudsters' eyes. Yeah, for sure, we detected many improvements in the phishing techniques. Those are described within our annual report, as you said. You may proceed via QR code to request it if you want. However, we all know the difference between phishing and scam. If not, I'll tell about it a bit more. Today, we're going to talk not about the phishing issue. Yeah. It's been a big, well-known and worldwide recognized one. But let's look what happened to scams, because phishing is a part of a scam. Moving to next slide. Yeah, let's look more precisely at difference between scams and phishing sites. Basically, phishing is a part of a scam, as I said. However, as I mentioned previously, the issue is very clear to many cybersec and governmental organizations. It is quite clear to everyone that phishing is a problem. Yeah, we know that. Typically, there are three main differences in comparison to scam. As the issue is recognized worldwide, its definition is fixed on the ICANN website. A page or a website should be considered as a phishing one if it is a full copy of legitimate website. Yeah, it collects login or password or any other credentials. And also there are plenty of organizations like CERTs combating with phishing. We know all of them. Thus, most of regulators are deep in the problem and cooperate in such activities. The modern phishing is very often presumes a delayed usage of the leaked data also. Okay, that's a phishing one, yeah? Let's look at scams. As a matter of fact, if any of the phishing definition requirements is not followed, it won't be treated as a phishing resource. So-called 2.0 phishing, where you will be asked to provide only your contact, email, phone number without connecting any logins, passwords, or credentials, will be processed like a scam website, not a phishing one. This means that it could not be processed via CERTs, via regulators, other internet regulators who can easily block phishing things. Yeah. All the tools and approaches mentioned on the left, like clone websites, false, mobile apps, false partnerships, promotions, and so on, should be researched and enforced in a different way. Let's, provide you a bit more of information about the numbers of it in the next slide. As you may see, the amount of phishing issues is growing year by year. In 2020, it consisted 70% of the overall digital crimes. It is almost pretty same in 2021. Yet the data is not collected fully, but yeah, we can predict that. But if we see at the same time, scams are growing too, yeah? If we see, next slide, please. The total amount of scams is three times more higher in comparison to a phishing one. It's about 56% of all. And speed of scams is growing really higher. You can see here that scams are growing really fast on this slide. And let's now move on trends. Yeah, we talked about numbers, we talked about the difference between that. Let's now move on trends. And first one is connected to the scheme. We discovered it early 2019, the White Rabbit. All of you know of the fairy tale written by Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, if you remember, at the very beginning there was a little girl who got very tired and bored of her everyday routine, like we did during the COVID quarantines. Yeah, as soon as she saw a non-typical white rabbit with a pocket jacket rushing somewhere, she decided to follow him. While the chase, she entered a rabbit hole and fell down through it, potentially into lots of troubles. This is very typical to a modern internet user. For the last 5-7 years, we got used to the internet in everyday life. After getting bored with the routine, we become very happy to find an interesting advertisement, post, maybe message, and that's the modern way of a user's behavior. Yeah, it is used by scammers. We discovered this scheme, as I said, in 2019, basically divided into 3 steps: the traffic attraction stage, forming a personal link stage, or a multiple redirect chain, and the text stage. On the traffic attraction stage, scammers used a lot of channels: messengers, contextual ads, social media ads, email, messengers, whatever. Yeah. While those attempts, many well-known brands were used, users were suggested giveaways, discounts, other benefits, depending on the involved brand. After getting attracted, hey, you won a car. After getting attracted, the user was asked to fill in a survey. At the very end, they filled contact details like email, mobile phone, whatever. Also, the user could be asked for contact details without passing any survey. In a few minutes, or maybe hours, or maybe days, the user received a message or email directly. This notification announced a win. You won a car, you won an iPhone, whatever, yeah? And asked to proceed via a link for further steps. In many cases, this was the phishing website, but with no brands on its pages. So neither the domain name nor the website content were using any brand mentions. And why is the second stage, the multiplier redirect chain, is so important in this part? Yeah, let's have a deep dive on it in the next slide. Here, next slide, please. Yeah, here is an example of a personalized link formed automatically for user after passing throughout the redirect chains. While passing it, different data related to ISP, search query, operational system, IP was collected. You may see all of this points within the text in the link. Look, Windows, operation system, telecom, whatever, yeah? But what is worth mentioning, the timestamp. In this way, the link could be opened only with a combination of factors from the same place, on the same device, at a certain moment. A few minutes later, it was down. Link was down. Thus, scammers covered the real phishing stage from the eyes of regulators. And if somebody was so lucky to catch the link or to grab a screenshot of this link, the regulators didn't take any measures due to the fact that the page was already unavailable at the moment of recheck. Yeah, you can see, you can block something that you can see. This led to reduction of the tax difficulties during the enforcement process and increased the uptime of each link. After all, the number of victims was growing day by day. Let's move on to the next slide. So after a recap on 2019, this was, as I mentioned, discovered in 2019. Let's move on to 2020. As it was said at the beginning, due to the COVID disaster, businesses started to work online more proactively. Here we see the division by the most popular traffic attraction channels. Yeah, social media, emails, whatever. The ways of direct interaction with customers, users, victims, are the kings. Official companies, they interact with customer directly, and scammers do the same. And the rabbit grew too. This rabbit scheme. This is shown next slide. You can see the comparison between 2019 and 2020. In 2019, the amount of standalone domains posting the scamming links was about 80, you can see, and the number of brands used on pages of one domain was about 30. Half of them were Russian. Shafique, you're in Moscow, and at least 15 foreign.
Yeah.
As for the 2020, the number of standalone portals increased 4 times, you can see it. There are more than 100 of brands per portal. Moreover, the most part of the brands are not Russian. They moved to Europe, to APAC, to USA. So let's have a look at the top 5 of portals involved in the White Rabbit scheme in 2020. All the data is monthly unique users. The average amount of unique users for each portal out of 300 is about 250,000 per month. That's a lot of traffic. Imagine this traffic goes to official pages. Sales would increase a lot. All right, let's have a look at the scheme modernization from more technical angle. The left part is about traffic, and it is improving constantly. The main thing I can say here, all the possible channels and approaches for traffic attraction invented for and used by legal players are definitely used by scammers. As of the last 2 parts, redirecting and forming of a URL, all the last improvements were made here. Diverse advertisements led to scams and phishing directly. This is the most typical and old approach. Next slide, please. The old approach one. You can see the basic one. Yeah. And in 2019, the update scheme, which appeared in 2019, involved the multiply redirect factor. And thanks to this feature, the whole rabbit scheme appeared. In 2020, approach stayed the same. In 2021, pretty the same too. However, the last 2 steps became much more complicated. The traffic attraction stage became much more tailored and narrowed. Ads are shown to a specific group of people searching for something in particular from a concrete region, from Indonesia, Australia, Singapore, India, whatever. The links are still personalized and encrypted more seriously. At the last step, if there is no certain brand in the sleeve, a person will be now suggested a web page with brand and product, which is pretty the same from the perspective of a user's interest. Also, the web forms would be auto-completed with a collected on, remember that, on the redirect stage. Info, name, surname, some information from the search query. This information were collected while you clicked on that link and went through this redirect chain. Let's look how it works on an example. It is easier to look at an example. Let's imagine a person rushing to an airport to tail an urgent plane to Dubai for some business purposes. So he jumps into the metro and tries to search for any available tickets. In the very first row, he sees and the website suggesting the needs tickets. You can see, ads, buy airline tickets, whatever. The link, he clicked that link, and the link is also personalized, but the way of encryption changed. You can see it here. At the end, the person gets to a page looking like an official page of a worldwide known airline company. Several main points on the scam. The page would not be available only for this person. Would be available. This page would be available only for this person. Only for mobile devices with a referrer from this particular search query. And also only for this geographical area. The forms were auto-completed inside of this link. The forms were auto-completed with the person's name and surname, destination, time, and the real flight number. The persons make a purchase and it proceeds like a typical purchase. The money is sent to a distant fraudulent account, considering the fact that the person's bank, it is a typical transaction approved by but the customer, there will be no way to retrieve the money back, unfortunately.
Kamo, I would say that this is really tapping on the psychopathy, the psychology of the behavior of human beings, right? When they take a look at their name and they take a look at details, this is the idea of that level of personalization that the scammer is trying to play on the human behavior to trick the individuals.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can go to another case.
Yeah, if you want, you can tell it. Okay.
You go on ahead on this one.
Yeah. So let's show the second case. Targeted scam links. Once again, to spread the scammers used all known tools, contextual ads, advertising on legal and quite illegal sites, SMS, emails, the purchase of consonant domains, less fashionable at the time, adding links to the calendar, and posts on social networks. Targeted links are a type of a scam in which a separate link is generated for each user based on their parameters. Yeah, we now know that. And leads to a fraudulent resource, most often with a survey. Yeah. When the user clicked that link, he got into a chain of redirects where he got something like in the output. After answering questions, the scammers ask for the user to leave their personal data, including all of the bank card data, or immediately force them to transfer a certain amount of money to pay for the offered services. You can see the second example of it in this slide. For sure, scammers, they do know how to talk with you. All this social engineering stuff working pretty well. They speak in your local language. They know how to interact with you. And a lot of...
yeah. Sorry, go ahead, come on.
Yeah, I just want to say that they know how to talk with you, and these crimes, they are developed in maybe in Russia. It's a lot of crime techs, but they are scaled abroad a lot. Yeah,
and we saw this with multiple different threat actors who were attacking Russia in the beginning, and now they've gone global. Even threat actors that are outside of just scamming and phishing, we've seen quite a number of those threat actor groups, even APT type, moving out of Russia and going global. So this is not stopping, this is just increasing and proliferating throughout the whole entire world. This is another case of a Singapore telco that I think a lot of people get this, especially, dear so-and-so customer, there is a level of personalization with your name right there, and they're saying that they're holding an anniversary, they're having lucky draw winners, and from there, what happened is that you are supposed to fill up a survey. Once you fill up the survey, you are able to get an iPhone, right? From here, this is exactly where the scam begins, by taking your car details, by taking your relevant information, and in the end of the day, effectively utilizing that to do fraudulent. Now, Group IB has been the business tracking websites, domains, C2 infrastructure tools that we have for the last 18 years. And we discovered that there were already 50 websites that were ready to be launched. And this is what is our concept of hunting, our concept of preempting. Just like last year when we had a case called Lot C, we discovered the infrastructure that was being planned to be used before the attack took place. And thankfully, we have a good set of consortium partners, like trusted introducers, a lot of domain registrars that we know about, and we have good relationships about. It took us less than 24 hours to take down the entirety of the adversary network. Much appreciated by our Singapore telecommunications provider. Right? So here's yet another type of, crafted, formatted, tailored, personalized type of communications that they have. And when you see that level of personalization, that is where they try to apply on that social engineering, giving you even a timeline. You got 4 minutes and 41 seconds, so you don't have time to think. You don't have time to think. You got to fill this up. And one of the craziest things is that the hackers are really evolved. They know how to localize based on your IP, based on your telco. They understand the language that you speak, based on detecting a lot of different aspects of how you interact with them. And you can see it's the same website, but relocalized to different languages, giving you this sense of a true website, giving you that sense of legitimacy, so to speak, right? So these are just simplified examples of how you need to be careful when you deal with these sites, how you need to ensure your families and your work colleagues are protected as such. Moving along, Kamo, let's talk about classic scam, right? Over to you, Kamo.
Thanks. Yeah, now let's talk about scam as a service and that related stuff. In the scam's early stages, the fraudsters used a relatively straightforward method. They created bait ads on marketplaces and classifieds and something like that, and used social engineering techniques to convince users to pay for goods by transferring money to bank cards. The scammers used all the typical tricks, low prices, discounts, gifts, limited time to make purchases, and that's a lot of stuff there. Different groups came and went, but one thing remained constant. The scammers got their money, but the users didn't get their goods. If we talk about this scam as a service scheme, we can divide a group of people into 3 parts. First of all, we'll talk about admins, aka topic starters, group organizer or administrator, who is responsible for the software and performance of the payment system. He's also responsible for providing support to users, for distributing funds. Users, I mean, workers, hired workers or spammers, whose job is to register one-day accounts on free classifieds websites, create bait ads based on ready-made templates. They communicate with victims through platform chat systems or maybe messengers, and then they send phishing links to a victim. Also, there are the third part, so-called callers or refunders, who play the role of courier, service customer support agents maybe. After acquiring the victim's trust, they suggest arranging a refund, often using the same fake resource. As a result, the victim card is debited a second time. Let's move forward to the fraud involving Telegram bots. You can see here most of the above tasks, imagine that, can be done using Telegram bots, and it is automated. Thanks to the latter, scammers no longer need to create pages to generate phishing pages, also called admins. All workers need to do now is to drop a link to the bait product in chat bot, which then generates a comprehensive phishing set, links to the courier service, payment, and the refund page. This when they create a page, let's move to this next slide. Yeah, they just type different criteria. You can see here: iPhone, Pacific Blue, the cost of it, where to deliver, phone number. Then you check add, and then bot gives you a link. Yeah, different link for different countries. There are more than 10 types of Telegram bots that create these pages mimicking brands. For each brand and page, scammers write template, scripts, and instructions that help newbie workers sign up to new platforms and communicate with victims in the local language. As a result, phishing pages have improved in quality and become easier to create. You need just 20 seconds to create this link. And scammers receive more and more support here. All the above factors have caused fraud on Classifit's website to skyrocket. And more scammers want to be involved in such an easy, very easy, yet lucrative activity. You don't need to think, you don't need to do anything. Just create ad in the marketplace that you sell an iPhone, get in contact with a victim, type little criteria in this Telegram bot, you get the link. You don't need to create a phishing link. You get this automatically. Send this link to the victim and get the money. That's it. About 70% of earned money goes to workers, around 20-25 for administrators, and about 5 for other personnel. Let's move to another examples here. You can see the scheme is used in various countries, as I said, in various languages. Also, it doesn't obligatory need to be a classic field. This could be done with the payment systems also, with showing you the next case. Can you show it, please? Next slide.
Yes.
So you can see, you can create a fake payment system, fake wallet. This is a Russian-related example of that Telegram bot creating fake payment system. Also, it could be done with the banks also. Let's have an example of next slide, please. This is how you create easily and without any much effort. Cyber criminals identify the victims and just do it. Let's move to the very interesting fraudulent scheme aimed to Indonesian bank. Over to you, Shafique.
Yeah. Cool. So as Kamo has given you several examples, I think one of the main takeaways here is, personalization. It's about adaptability and flexibility. Globalization is about redirection. So these are the bits of evolution that was not really present in the past, in the 2016, 2018 era. It's still not there. And I don't think there was a scam as a service in the 2018 region per se. This is all adapted from different types of dichotomies, algorithms, ransomware as a service, affiliate programs, the utilization of tools, etc. The consortium-based type of methods utilizing different types of payment gateways, etc. Right? So I was an Indonesian bank that literally had a lot of different issues because they did social engineering to utilize the communications with actual clientele by disguising themselves as bank staff. From that level of social engineering, as you can see from here, it was also potentially utilizing bots. It created an ability to redirect the party because in Indonesia, a lot of people use WhatsApp. It's more common, it's much easier, it's much more stable. then utilizing a bot on the laptop. So again, applying on a social engineering factor, they get a lot of intel coming in with the communications with third-party messengers. Thereafter, redirection to via phishing to the actual bank's type of website, but essentially it is not the case. It is a fraudulent website, and that's where they manage to then steal credentials from these users, allowing them to do a multitude of things, such as even using that same credentials to go into e-commerce websites, using that as a payment mode, etc. Right? So these are getting more and more common, even in those types of countries. In essence,
yeah. Imagine cyber criminals identifying their victims by trolling the bank's official Twitter accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really logical approach by the threat actor. The thing is, you don't really go and complain to the bank that often. You see, so when you finally come into the situation, you're not really sure what you're into. And then you see these types of new services using bots, using live chat with our officer, right? So you have a tendency to think that this is something new, especially catching on the older folks. So looking at trendings, right? And forecast, in terms of an attacks perspective, there are no really new types of vectors that we see. It's just modified, it's just improved more so than not. And our forecast is that utilizing the same methods, the level of efficacy, the level of efficiency will still be there. There will be a lot of big brands that will be involved in these types of attacks because they're getting greedier, they're getting faster, they're getting more organized, they're getting more categorical. They even have control panels for that matter. In terms of a traffic perspective, as mentioned, the trending is all about personalization, all about convincing you that this is the level of legitimacy is there, right? That is being used in that type of fraud. You wouldn't click on it if you're from Belgium and you see a Chinese website, right? So they are modifying their approach. They are taking additional steps to localize the scam. And
Moreover, let
yeah,
me add here.
Go ahead.
Moreover, you as a bank, you as a right holder, you won't be able to see these links. You just won't be able to dive deeper into these links. They will be no active for you. They won't be active for you. Yeah.
And this is a problem for a lot of vendors whose job is to help you take down. And we in Group IB, we understand the different workflows and protocols necessary to take down those websites. And so if you do not have the level of preemption, that level of hunting, you will find that this is going to be a nightmare for your relevant organizations, because the registrar will say the link still doesn't exist. What do you want me to do, right? And that's what we see on an attacks and traffic perspective. But on a business standpoint, we look at the trending now moving out of not just the APAC region, but now scaling and migrating towards the EMEA, towards the Western regions, more so than not. And a continued level of international expansion that worries all of us, throughout this type of attack vector. So the roots of fraud, as you know, run much deeper. Okay, it is not just what you see on the surface. We are about tracking these individuals. And you ask me, how then do I deal with this kind of challenge, right? So Group IB had a brand service called brand protection in the past, and it has been consolidated into what we know today as the digital risk protection. It's very comprehensive. It is designed to protect our clientele, which we have a lot of right now, that we are protecting almost 500 different brands. We have about 11 plus years of experience, although 18 as a company, and we've got 70 plus international professional analysts. This is also something that is key. The human element here is very vital. It's not just about pure automation and getting a lot of false positives. Our technologies have a lot of significant legacy behind it, a lot of learning that we've had throughout the past 11 years. Neural networks with different algorithms that we've employed, multiple different channels, and our expertise is very key in how we deal with the social media, how we deal with registrars, how we have that consortium approach when it comes to search, right? And this is where it all, the magic happens, where you combine the business, where you combine the analyst, where you reduce the false positive, where you tune the system in order to learn what you need to be protected. Now, we consolidated our brand protection practice of the past to what we know today as the family of different modules within the digital risk protection offering that we have, is because we have an anti-scam module, we have an anti-counterfeit module, we're really good with anti-piracy with some of the biggest brands in the world, and we also combine it with our capabilities and whose origins came from threat intelligence and attribution, stuff like also leak detection. Overall, we have ability to even do VIP protection. Each one of these different offerings have different subject matter expertise in terms of how we detect scam, as Kamo had mentioned to you earlier on, how our detection methodologies behind it, how we actually do some level of KYC, different types of fake partnerships, trademark abuse, fake advertising, fake accounts on social media, and fake mobile apps, for instance. And we can take down these mobile apps on different places like Google Play Store and even localized Play Store, right? Based on our communications with the relevant registrars and authorities. On an anti-piracy perspective, we have a practice as well, especially on big pharma, so products, medical products, for example, a lot of illegal sales going, a lot of gray when it comes to imports, and also breaches in terms of agreements, in terms of pricing, in terms of licensing model, in terms of where sell, spoiling that kind of market dynamics. Anti-piracy systems of analyzing video content to see whether this is legitimate, not legitimate, is it a trailer on YouTube, and we can have that ability to take these down. Online streams, especially during pay-per-views, that are supposed to make money, we track those, we bring it down preemptively, right? Be it software, computer games, books, magazines, articles, or even online music. On a leaks detection, it does fall down to leak detection because leaks are a form and methodology of initial access, and not just for scams, but also even for ransomware. Right? Code leaks on GitHub, for example, and all sorts of different types of sensitive data and files, right? On a VIP protection perspective, if you have specific parties you want to protect, board level members, important C-level, CXO types of, we also have that practice available. It's 24/7, 365. We have a portal for you to check. There is an ability to communicate with our backend. It allows you to understand the context, the situational awareness of your brands. And in this particular platform, you are able to talk to our cybersecurity experts above and beyond what your needs may be. And our methodologies of analyzing detected infringements and prioritizing what to enforce is vital. It's not about taking stuff down. It's not like pressing a magic button and then the website gets taken. It's about understanding where it's hosted, understanding the type of content that is, what types of violations it is, and minimizing the risk exposure. That's what group takedowns are dependent on geography. Takedowns are on where it is hosted. Takedowns are dependent on where the regulations, the policies, the fit for use policies are. So what we normally, in certain situations, we will still do risk mitigation by taking down the content after determining the violation. After that, the enforcement prioritization takes place, and that is automated. Okay, and this part is key because you need 24/7 given the fact that threat actors have gone global. All the different resources that we use for analysis range from social media to advertising to instant messengers like Telegram, that was what Kamo was talking about earlier, domain names which we tie against our current cybersecurity practice, you know, and to what leads and gets concorded, correlated with even C2 infrastructure, and also the deep and dark web, which is playing a huge and vital role for exchange of compromised credentials, especially, right? And that is where we make our response. That is how we tailor your experience with specific customer experience officers that are there for you. Now, DRP, you know, Group IB, are you just a DRP company? No, we have an ecosystem. We have an ecosystem of products ranging from our flagship threat intelligence and attribution. Now, why is this so important? You can go for a lot of different vendors that actually provide takedown capability, but you do not have context. You do not have attribution. You do not have an understanding of who is your enemy here, who is the threat actor. And that is why we focus on catching criminals. That is why we focus on the attribution element, not just in terms of a denial of those individuals trying to attack you, right? We focus so that this doesn't happen again. We're doing a noble job to take down false infrastructure, you know, threat infrastructure, and also threat actors. We've got a whole host of other different products, such as threat hunting framework that protects your networks via sensors, sandboxes, and even what we call our EDR, which is Handpoint. We have anti-fraud solutions for client side, but we shall not talk about that today. I'm just saying that one of the reasons why we are successful is because our products integrate holistically. Our products complement each other in that sense of the word, right?
Yeah, we help each other, yes.
Exactly. And we have a global partner network. You mentioned about consortiums. We have moderator accounts with well-established relationships in terms of major digital platforms, the likes of Google, Ali, YouTube, eBay, etc. And another part that I say is vital here. Being a part of Trusted Introducer, being a part of FIRST is vital. It allows us to have access. We're part of Impact. We will soon be a part of AP CERT. We are part of OIC CERT. And based on all of this, we built the business that we got recognized for by Frost & Sullivan as the leader in digital risk protection services. If you want some numbers, I'll throw out some numbers. It's between 500 to about 700 different types of takedowns per day that we do for a customer on average, right? These are resources in the back end that take them down. It is not just pure automation. It's about manual reviews. It's about analyzing whether or not this is a false positive, right? We've got about 1,000 odd rapid response domain zones. And also we have a 24/7 CERT that monitors and even takes down for phishing, etc. And that's about 170,000 plus security incidents that was processed by our CERT so far. These are the key components when you choose a particular type of vendor to assist you in those use cases that we talked about. At this stage, Kamo, I think it would be great if we could take on some questions from the floor.
Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. We are here. Also, if you might be not ready to ask questions now, feel free to contact me or Shafique. Our emails should be on the screen sometime.
Absolutely. Alisa, do we see any questions from the floor? Is it working? So the idea of these updates that we're giving in Group IB is so that you will be able to have a sensing of what we do and how we would. So just 1 second. What kind of mitigation approach should a financial institution to prevent scams to their customers? So we're talking about what kind of approach do they need to take to prevent scams to their customers. Now, you have no control over your customers' interactions with the outside world. You've got no control over what apps they actually in, whether they root their phones, whether or not they have malicious content, whether they're going to sites that they shouldn't be going. Now, you got no control of that. What you do have control is your own app in the bank, right? And when you look at your own app, you are able to get a lot of insights. You got a lot of insights towards the device, the telco that the individual is using, through fingerprinting, if you have things like our fraud hunting platform. Now, from there, you'd be able to see the behavior, the persona of the individual that is utilizing your app. You know, the kind of, from those behaviors, from those actions is where you can then realize that they have the potential to be exposed to scam more so than not, right? Through phishing. And the only solution here is awareness. If you look at some of the most common banking sites that we have out of Singapore, you will be able to see that they keep on giving that phishing awareness, you know, throughout. You still gonna get all different IP-based, VoIP type of calls from all sorts of different countries. That awareness that needs to be built into your client base is key. Continued dissemination of information, work closely with law enforcement, working closely with good cybersecurity company that can give you this threat intel on the latest dynamics of these evolutions. This is why Kamo and me do this pretty often. You know, we see a scam trend, we write about it, we proliferate about it, we have these sorts of get-togethers, and then you get a sensing, what is White Rabbit? How do they do it? What's the kind of trending that we need to be careful of? It's personalization. We need to tell our clients how exactly to look out for these sort of symptoms, you know, and in order to avoid it. Push out to your customer base latest kind of information pertaining to phishing. This is what the governments are doing, working closely with, depending on where you are from. If you're from Singapore, then working closely with the likes of the Association of Banks, CSA, you know, GovTech, IMDA, in order to get this information. Working with IFS-ISAC, working with parties such as Group IB to have these shared meetings in threat intelligence and also DRP and also fraud hunting. We have a lot of different seminars in which we push out right there, you know, for all of you. I hope that answers the question. Feel free to ask anything under the sun, not just on, in DRP, but across the board, because a lot of things is about convergence, you know. It's convergence. It's not just IT department, fraud department, scam department, marketing department. It actually spans across. If you look at the TTPs of threat actors today, right? You know, it is going into an OT environment via the IT. It is going into the fraud environment via the IT. It is going into the IT department via the fraud systems that they have through CVEs, through compromised credentials. So, you know, we're not looking at the siloed 80s mentality anymore. You see, we need to take a look at it with a new, fresh pair of eyes. We need to understand that the vectors that these threat actors are coming in from. They're getting smarter and smarter, and they're at home on their computer doing this. So if they're in a very relaxed environment, that they can sit down, think, create a control panel, and then fall asleep tomorrow morning. Just 700 different compromised credentials right there. You know, easy peasy. Right?
Easy, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of software like that.
Correct, and that is why I wake up this early in the morning. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning in Moscow time to do my. This is what makes me and Kamo every day fight this threat actors, because Group IB has a zero tolerance to cybercrime, and we're really, really very proud of it. See, I'm even wearing my hoodie, Group IB hoodie right here. All right. Alisa, do we have any other questions from the floor? Yes, sorry about that. All right, so can we prevent these emerging frauds through 3DS? And why is the world not yet covered by 3DS everywhere? It's a very important question. 3DS was an actual, implementation, that initiative that was done in the early days. Right? And we need to truly understand what 3DS is. And essentially, let's talk about 3DS first. Now, 3DS was an implementation that was required and mandated a lot, but not every company has followed it. It's now not just 3DS, it's now 3DS 2.0. And essentially, you can see that a lot of companies, a lot of governments do not enforce this completely. 3DS can only get you so far if you understand the methodology of how 3DS works, right? So, and that's bordering not on DRP, but bordering more on a fraud protection perspective, right? 3DS is costly, number one. 3DS can only get you so far because of the type of information it consumes. Now, more and more people realize the importance of, aside from just transactional, is sessional. During an initial session, in fact, I covered a little bit about this in the earlier days, in the earlier part of the earlier question, where I said, the behavior and persona of the individual, coupled with the kind of device fingerprinting being baseline against information that a cybersecurity organization has, and from there, establishing a concordance towards the TTPs being used by threat actors, how we detect those types of frauds, how we detect in a multitude of ways. Group IB is a very unique company. It focuses not just on the telemetries and create a platform for you to work on transactional and do some kind of analytics from the data. We are the data. We are the data when it comes to the C2 infrastructures that we track. We are the data when it comes to understanding the threat actors and the TTPs. We have the data when it comes to dark web, because we've been in that business for 18 years and we've fingerprinted the whole of the dark web. Now, the concordance of this information is what leads us during a session to understand whether this is a scam or not. Pre-3DS 2.0, 3DS is a rule book. It's one of the world's biggest Visa rule book, and that's about it. And the amount of false positives coming out of there. Now, if I was an e-commerce entity versus a bank, I'd have different points of view, right? Chargeback perspective versus decline rate perspective. So these are some key considerations when you use. Why is not the world utilizing 3DS, different regulatory frameworks, different regulations from MAS to OJK to SBV to BOT? Yeah, not BOT is in the board, but Bank of Thailand instead as a monetary regulatory agency. They have different kind of outlooks behind it. And 3DS 2.0 is just MFA, right? We've been telling our customers to use MFA for ages, right now.
Let me add here. Imagine a situation, you're on the scam link and you're trying to send money and do whatever you want with your card, yeah? Then you receive the 3DS, the SMS, you have to check your transaction. Why don't scammers use the same technique? I mean, they ask you to fill in a form of the 3DS information, of 3DS check, and you filled it by yourself. That's it. That's also one of the ways to collect and to
yeah, that's a very good question. Like I said, some of the questions here are pretty good in terms of trying to understand. You're already bordering, your questions are already bordering on convergence between DRP and fraud, fraud and scam, scam and threat intelligence, So this is why, if you noticed my diagram that I had just now, this is what we do. When you get DRP from Group IB, you're not just getting DRP, you're getting threat intelligence. You're not just getting DRP and brand protection, but you're getting compromised credentials and understanding of that. You're not just getting compromised credentials, you're getting dark web sciences as well. So this is what we're proud of. That's why we want to share with you. We've got a lot more things to share with you. Sadly, it's about time that we do every single time. So, feel free to contact us anytime, and stay tuned, because we have a lot more for you. Like last year, we had a huge reception when it came to a particular scam called Lotzi. Everybody emailed me and said, this is really good stuff, Shafique, because you took it down even before this happened. This is true hunting, true fraud hunting, true DRP hunting, to true threat intelligence and attribution, and true threat hunting. And this is why we believe in that convergence. We believe it's not like, for a bank, it's not just about the core banking, not just about the fraud element, not just about the scam element. And that question that you mentioned, how do I take care of my customers? You can't control your customer's handphone. You can't control your customer's desktop. You can't control your customer's browser. What you can do is to truly utilize technology to understand they are who they are when they say they are who they are. You know, it is not an account takeover situation. It is your duty to help your customers to understand if their credentials have been breached, you know, so that you can advise them to change their passwords, which they haven't changed, or if they utilize passwords that are simple without proper complexities, right? So these are some of the stuff, but what we do is high fidelity. What we do is above and beyond the surface of just the behaviors. You know, when we talk about social engineering, it's one of the hardest things to detect, hardest things to control, because the user is giving their passwords, the user is giving their credentials, right? But what we do is we take it a step further. Whilst the threat actor is socially engineering your clients, we are actually socially engineering the threat actor. I'd like to put it that way. In fact, I'm going to coin that and tell my boss that I said that, you know. And we are socially engineering the threat actor in order to find out who they are, what kind of infrastructure they have. We're playing with them on the without them realizing that we are actually part of the consortium of law enforcement, working closely with Interpol and Europol, and we track them and we trap them and we arrest them. We help and aid law enforcement to arrest Nigerians in Nigeria, in Morocco, in Indonesia, and we have a few more operations ongoing that I can't talk about. But this, you need to look at it beyond a product standpoint. If you're just looking for products, I can give you names. I can give you a whole list of names. If you're looking for a solution, if you're looking for an approach, then you come to Group IB. With that in mind, Alisa, we don't have any more questions? Okay, cool, excellent.
What if we can collect every question left, or maybe, you know, you can send these questions to our mails and we'll answer you later on. Yeah, to be more effective and to give precise information to you. Yeah.
Excellent. So we will consolidate the questions and we can even reply it back to you if you leave out your contact details. Don't worry, we are not scammers. You know, do leave your contact details. You will not receive a personalized link from Group IB. All right. So with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to, on behalf of Group IB, I'd like to thank you, and thank you very much, Kamo, and also Alisa. Take care, everyone. Have a blessed day ahead. Be safe.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with you. Bye bye. Be safe.
Спасибо.